Hello. Hi. Greetings. Um, Excited to be here. And I know some folks are just joining us, and I see some familiar faces down there. Hello. I'm just gonna dig into it. And I do see that Chef Jazz is here. I wasn't sure if you're gonna be able to join us today, so I'm gonna add you to the stage and invite you to speak in just a few, if you'd like. All right, so let's get started here. For those who don't know about Tokeativity and myself, welcome. My name is Lisa Snyder. I am the co-founder and chief innovation officer of Tokeativity. We are the global feminist community for active cannabis culture. Please welcome to our third official Clubhouse event for Tokeativity. Please note that we are experimenting with the Clubhouse's new recording feature today, so this should be available afterwards to folks who are part of the Tokeativity Club. Tokeativity is a global community of 56,000 active cannabis consumers and business owners that believe in cannabis normalization, equity, and empowerment of a modern consumption culture. We connect with each other through creative, social, and political intersectional feminist forward activities and creative campaigns that work to create radical, positive change. We've been featured in Forbes, Condé Nast, High Times, Dope, Leafly, Yahoo, Vanguard Media Online, and more. I want to shout out to our corporate members, Glass Cardinal, Herbal, and Scentsy Magazine for your support and dedication to the liberation of women through cannabis. Another thank you to our sponsors for today's Clubhouse, Angeline's Hair Serum and Vape John. You can learn more information about these two businesses on our events page by clicking on today's Clubhouse event. If you'd like to sponsor future Clubhouse events, digital socials, or Instagram lives, you can head over to tokeativity.com/events. Look for the event you want to sponsor and click on register, and you can select a logo or a link on page. We're doing a special for all of our listeners on Clubhouse. You can use coupon code Clubhouse30 to get 30% off. We also have recently released our entire year of digital events, which is accessible to our global community through the internet through June 2022. It includes all of our clubhouses, socials, and Instagram lives, and you can check that out on our website. Next Wednesday is our Culinary Arts Tokeativity Social, which is from 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. It has been coined a beehive of activities by Rolling Stone and features one-on-one business networking, educational sessions, workshops, guest speakers, and themed community sesh rooms. You can meet and listen in on conversations, network with other cannabis-loving feminists from across the globe, and join the conversation or be anonymous. It's totally up to you. And you can RSVP for free at tokeativity.com/events. So we hope to see you there. This is our first time hosting a culinary arts event, and we have a ton of amazing guests. Our keynote speaker is Chef Liv Vasquez. She's the founder of Livy Smalls Events, and she's also the winner of Netflix's Cooked with Cannabis TV show. So we do have some amazing guests with us today who are going to be with us at the social, and I will get to them in just a few minutes. We're just doing a little intro here. So if you want to keep in touch with us on Clubhouse, you can follow me. You can click the green house at the top to become a member of our club here. And also, please ping anyone you think should be here with us today. So a little background about me before we get into our special guests. I'm a lesbian, a feminist, a tech lover, and I became a plant medicine advocate after both my parents died of cancer, 5 years apart in 2004 and 2009. I have over 27 years of digital strategy experience. I've been on the board of Sweet Jane magazine. I've also been an edibles judge for High Times and a flower judge for Cult Classic. And I am also the co-creator of Bridges, which is a show about conversations that foster healing. This past season, the focus has been on race, equity, and inclusion. And this is a collaboration with Club Kindness TV, which is streaming starting this January on Roku and Apple TV. So, all right, that was all of the good, juicy background stuff. Let's get into it. Our intention here is to talk about cannabis, feminism, consumption, with a focus on cannabis and the culinary arts. So, today we'll be talking about edibles, how we bring them into our lives, and how we help understand how to use them and, just all around what do we like about them. Some people have been scared of edibles for many reasons. Everyone has that bad brownie experience, and so we're going to talk with some special guests today. So let's kick it off with Chef Jazz. Why don't you introduce yourself and take a few minutes to share about your relationship with edibles?
Hello, everybody. I am Chef Jazz. I'm the owner of Green Panther Chef, also the author of More Than a Cannabis Cookbook. Myself, with cooking with cannabis, I actually started it in 2007 after I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So through the process, I actually dropped down to around 84 pounds. I was put on 5 medications. I was told this was supposed to be my life. So I was introduced through cannabis through like a doctor around 2008. Make a long story short, I exclusively use cannabis and food now. So I'm very intentional about my use of cannabis, and primarily in the Washington, D.C. area, we host dinner parties and everything centers around the health and happiness and the full use of the plant.
Thank you, Chef Jasmine. I'm so glad that you're able to make it today, and your journey is so inspiring and incredible. Especially like I've known people in my life who have had Crohn's disease. I actually lost a friend who suffered significantly earlier in our 20s and in our early 30s, and it's just so amazing that you are here to live to tell the tale and to share about your experience with others.
Thank you. It hasn't been easy, but thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, thank you. Um, let's go to Brittany next.
Hi, you all. My name is Brittany Parker. I'm the founder of A Green Legacy. It's an organization supporting underrepresented cannabis entrepreneurs through education, programming, and community. I'm also a marketing and communications consultant by trade. And then I also am a freelance writer for both Leafly and Weed Mats and a few other local publications. I'm located in Seattle, and I have had many careers in my life, but the career that actually really got me interested in cannabis was as a teacher. I was an elementary teacher for about 4 years. I slowly but surely burned out, and my first plug was a fellow teacher um, who was my plug before it was legal in Seattle. And that relationship really helped me through those really stressful last months of my first career. And it has sustained me throughout my life. So, growing up with a parent who was very anti drugs, it and seeing how it helped me, it made it very clear that there were some things that I learned that probably weren't true. And I went on a mission to figure out all of the things that I didn't learn. So,
Oh, did we lose you, Brittany, or is it me?
she
Oh, okay. Thank you. Brittany, we can't hear you. But I'm so glad that you're here, Brittany, and it's amazing, that edibles have been with you, in your life, have helped to support you in all kinds of different life experiences.
in a
Also,
place where I'm trying to figure it
oh,
all
there we
out.
go. She's
Oh,
back. She's back. We lost you for about a minute
oh
and a half. I'm so sorry.
no! Well, let's see. What was the last thing you all heard?
Does everybody remember what was your birthday?
I hate when that happens.
Yeah,
Well,
I know. You were talking about your um career and like how you were Um, you had a parent who was anti-drugs, and I'm just trying to go back.
Okay. That gives me a little something, something. Thank
Okay.
you. Well, cannabis definitely has taken me through some really stressful times, and so having a parent who was very anti-drugs, uh, my experience over time just helped me realize that there were a lot of things that I was taught that just wasn't true. And so I've been on a mission to figure out what all of those things are ever since then. But I also really love this industry um, for its for everything that it is, as well as the plant, and of course, absolutely the people come first. And so I will pass it on.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Brittany. Miss Kindness.
Hey y'all, what's today?
Hey.
Happy Hump Day? It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yay,
Woo!
happy Hump Day. Hello to everyone in the room. I am Ms. Kindness Ramirez. And yes, that is my given name, also a calling. I am a master educator, the author of the children's book, The Root Family's Very Special Garden. And as Lisa mentioned, the CEO of Club Kindness. We're a multimedia distribution network and education platform committed to spotlighting viewpoints from the global majority. Our content is engaging and we try to be as thoughtful as possible, but our activism is meaningful. I'm also the co founder of Bridges, which is the flagship series, as Lisa mentioned, coming to CKTV Q1 of 2022, and the co host of the series with Miss Tiffany Watkins, who is also here with us today. And I'm looking forward to not only next week's conversation, but also today. Happy Hump Day, everyone.
Happy Hump Day. Well, can you come back here and just share a little bit about your relationship with edibles?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll say that I entered the space in 2012 because I took a bad slip and fall when I was pregnant. I was 26 weeks pregnant. Yes, she's okay and she's brilliant, but it led me to cannabis as a means for healing my body because the only alternative doctors could offer were opioids, and that's not an option when you're 26 weeks pregnant. At least it wasn't for me. And so I started to explore the original form of the medicine, which is tinctures. I didn't have a real relationship with cannabis. In fact, I was anti cannabis before that. And I know there's like a gasp. I have to give it to myself now. But I was anti cannabis before that. And then I literally did the whole new moon to full moon tincture in the freezer with a bunch of weed and an alcohol solution and tried it. And for the first time, had no pain for 5, 6 hours. I had also reached a level of awareness that I had never achieved in any of my meditations for 20 years prior. And oh, just a feeling that this was the way you were supposed to always feel. So I've always been an edibles gal. I continue to be an edibles gal. I've had every negative experience you can imagine post becoming a leader in the space, even passing out in a restaurant because I drank a juice and didn't realize the effect of metabolism and how quickly. So I'm excited for this conversation. I will say succinctly that microdosing is the way to go, just like eating food 6, 7 times a day in small doses is the way you should do your cannabis.
Great points. Excited to talk more about this. And I didn't know your gateway was tinctures.
Yeah, the
I'm digging
hardcore
that.
tinctures with alcohol. Now we do it, a little bit more gently with gummies and stuff.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for that introduction. Let's bridge it to Tiffany, since she's our partner here with Bridges, and a little introduction about yourself and your relationship with edibles.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Watkins. I'm the CEO and founder of Vanguard Media Online. It is a platform and a movement for women in the cannabis space. Myself, I am a 30 plus year cannabis industry veteran. I entered this space through activism when I was young, and I continue as an activist to this day. And along the way, I've added helping people build business. Where I mentor people through THC staffing and help them find their pathway to business in the cannabis arena. And I also teach for Oak Street Dam University, where I teach people who are going to be licensees how to operate and not forget about, where this plant comes from and how to advocate for it and how to market and brand their products and services. Cannabis as a whole lies very close to my heart, is my passion. My relationship with edibles, it's just, I have to almost chuckle to say, starting so long ago, um it was it was heavy. I mean, we didn't really know how much. We just knew, what felt right, what didn't feel right. Some edibles took us way over the top, and we'd have the cookie or the brownie with, way too much in there, and we were incredibly high and having a great time, and it was wonderful. But I've learned to love, over the years, to microdose. I believe that home health and hearth are all one and the same, and most of that is going to come from your kitchen and using your herbs in the kitchen. So I'm excited to have this conversation and see the points of views of other women. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome. Thank you, Tiffany. I love that. Home, heart, and hearth. Health and hearth. The three
Yep.
H's. It's hard to say really fast though. Home, health, and hearth. Okay, there we go. Let's go to Nydia.
Hi, HIGH. Hi. Thank you for having me, and hello to everyone in the room. My name is Nydia. I'm your resident Ganja clergy woman. I am a founder of You Are Wellness, where I'm a holistic guide using three pillars: physical therapy, because I'm a licensed physical therapist for 17 years, spiritual plant medicine, and Mind, Body, and Soul. I'm also the co founder of Noted, which is the budding dispensary of knowledge, where we're creating the PubMed, Google Scholar, or WebMD of cannabis, collectively gathering all research. We have opened our round of seed funding, so look into that. But most relevant to this room is another company that I co founded with my son, my 8-year-old son, and that's a company called Got Terpenes. It's our t shirt company where we help to break the stigma one shirt at a time, helping to start conversations. And also, it's just a good learning gateway for people to understand. And that this is how I taught my son about cannabis, was just by simply smelling the flowers. Um, his introduction has been through edibles and orals, and I've developed an interesting relationship with edibles throughout the years. I used to not use them at all, and now I've garnered a wonderful relationship with them in order to sleep. But in certain amounts, they do absolutely nothing. So I am also looking forward to this conversation. Thank you very much for having me aboard and amongst such beautiful women. So thank you.
Pleasure to have you with us. And I'm really excited. For those of you who don't know, Nydia is going to be leading a Canon Moms sesh at our Culinary Arts Tokeativity Social, which is happening next Wednesday. And that should be really, really good, as are all of these conversations. So last but not least, let's go to Takesha. If you're there, if you want to just there you go, you got it.
Okay, peace, love, and light, everyone. My name is Takesha Carter, and I am the creator of Afro Canna Holistic, where I teach others self-sufficient ways to bring harmony and balance back into their health using botanical synergy with plants and herbs like cannabis and whole foods. I started off with cannabis as a medicinal patient here in Connecticut, where I reside. And then I became an advocate and created Black Women Who Blaze to blaze through stigmas and stereotypes and also bring some visibility for us in the space. And my journey with edibles started probably early on as a teen with cannabis, but graduated once I became a advocate and patient as well, and a coach where I combine cannabis with herbs and oils and create tinctures and things as such.
Thank you so much for that intro. Beautiful. So glad to have you all here. For those of you who are on the West Coast, it's about to hit 420. So hit that bong, pipe, or edible. um, and for our East
I
Coasters,
am using my wand to light my rig as we speak.
oh, perfect. Amazing. We love being here for 420. So happy 420. So, all right. I guess I'll just share my little edibles, piece of the puzzle here. So I've been a cannabis consumer since I was 14, but really not really focused on it a ton until actually moving to Oregon in 2013 with my now wife, Kat, and it becoming legal here in Oregon to purchase. And so I've had all kinds of weird, edibles experiences that didn't really lead me down the pathway of being super excited about edibles. What does excite me about like regulated markets like Oregon and Washington and California and Colorado and New York now it's coming online, et cetera, is the ability to dose. There's the use of the word microdosing, which a couple of you mentioned earlier, to dose. And so I really like, this is not sponsored or anything, but it's just my favorite. I love Wild one-to-one gummies. They're just so consistent. And I'm always looking for consistency. As a consumer, I don't like consuming products where I don't know how they're going to make me feel and I don't know, or they make me feel one way this time and they make me feel a one way, a different way another time. I want that consistency. So that's something I seek as a consumer. And I'm kind of, I'm kind of curious as we start this conversation about edibles, and maybe we can start with Chef Jasmine. Like, how do you create a consistency when you're, for example, making food for yourself or someone else? How do we measure like how much cannabis we're really putting into something? It seems so complicated, but it's, and of course you're a chef and you do all the math and all that stuff, but just like how do we make that bridge of making food that has cannabis in it in our lives?
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, with myself, when I first started to introduce cannabis into my diet, I had to keep what I call a cannabis and food journal. So, of course, this was able to help me like pinpoint the cultivars that work for me, and then also the foods that will cause flare ups and all that good type of stuff, so I can identify it and then remove it or introduce it or reintroduce it, whatever how that looked. But as far as dosage, that has taken me a really long time as far as trial and error too. So I know there's some machines and all that good type of stuff out there, like the T-check, but it really does come down to like these 5 questions. I call them the big 5 inside of my book, but it's really like knowing your decarb weight, right? So typically, once we leave the dispensary, all that good type of stuff, we'll have an eighth, right? But after we decarb, we lose a little bit of water weight. So we have to pay attention to like what is that number after we decarb. That's really going to give us that approximate dosage. Then knowing your cannabinoid content. I say cannabinoid because like some people are really trying to isolate CBD, or THC. So whatever cannabinoid you're trying to isolate, you have to know that percentage as well. Then it goes down to the units of measurements in the recipe. Inside the book, I really kind of show you how to plug and play, but it really comes down to knowing those 5 questions and then just rinsing and repeat, as I say.
The big 5 that you mentioned in your cookbook. And so this is so exciting. You just released a cookbook that just became available,
Yay!
right?
Yes, ma'am. It has been a labor
Congratulations.
of love. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You had mentioned it took like 2 years or something to put this thing together, right?
Yes, it has. I mean, I've been cooking with cannabis for almost like 13 years, but solely about 2 years to put it together as far as just testing out the recipes and, just everything else that comes along with publishing, self publishing a book.
So, I think that's really interesting. Like if you or if anybody else here is like been thinking about bringing cannabis into your own kitchen, like this kind of cookbook is so important to have because I'll tell you, I tried to like I don't even know what I was thinking, but like over 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I was like, okay, I really want to get into the cannabis space. I don't even like cooking or baking, but I was like, maybe I'm gonna make edibles. I don't know what I was thinking. I just was trying stuff on. And so I like did all of this math and all of this like paperwork, and I was like had pages and pages in a journal to try to figure out like how much might something that I put in a, you know, a chocolate truffle be, you know, in milligrams. And it's just like, I think that's actually like such an important part of learning how to dose yourself. If you're going to be bringing it into your life, you're going to be like making oils and stuff like that. And of course, we don't have to do any of that. You can buy edibles. You can do that kind of stuff now. But of course, you know, this is a conversation about edibles in general and all the different ways to consume and to be thinking about it. So, um, you know, if I got a question in my DMs of like if we're gonna open up the stage, and I will in a little bit, once we kind of get around here and see if there's any if you have questions for anybody who's here, you know, feel free to raise your hand, and when we get to the, you know, Q&A part, I will bring you up here. Um, let's talk about microdosing, and anybody who wants to kind of jump in, go ahead. You know, what does it mean to you, and how do you microdose? What does it even mean?
You know, I wanted to jump in here because earlier, just a moment ago, when you were talking about this sort of bringing it into your home, bringing it into your kitchen, and implementing it into your lifestyle, I think one of the things teaching children for me is so important because we're already talking to them about things like how many fruits and vegetables you should be eating a day, like getting your normal exercise. And so when I think about how we should be eating small doses of food, I think about that with cannabis as well, and just integrating it into a regular practice. And so we call it microdosing, and we found out that like 2 to 5 milligrams is a great starting place. But it's more about listening to your body and just starting with a really small dose and waiting the time it takes and experiencing what it does to you and journaling it or whatever it is that helps you to recall that later. And then the next day, doing it again, practicing that consistency before increasing the dose. I think a lot of times we're looking for like this thing to happen to us or this effect. And then we've all heard these stories of that time you were in the corner calling for your mom because you don't know what you ate in somebody else's brownie. And so you're right. I like the fact that now in a regulated market, we can actually see the dose and see the cannabinoid breakdown in our products and understand what we're taking and expect a consistent return each time, assuming the labs and the labels are accurate. But that's a whole nother conversation. I think what's most important is that consumers spend more time getting to know their bodies and thinking about how they process all types of food as they begin to integrate cannabis into their practice. Because eating it is it's a journey. You know, I mentioned the time I ended up in the paramedics because I drank a liquid and I drank the whole thing. And there's two ways we're taking it in then, right? One through our bloodstream, right through our mouth, and then metabolizing it over hours. And then you add food to that. So really listening to our bodies is where we have to begin.
Miss
Right on.
Kindness. Oh, sorry. I so agree with what you're saying. And another thing that it makes me think of is I hate comparing cannabis and alcohol, but I think about the fact that, you know, we're introduced to alcohol pretty young. Like I remember being with my friends and sneaking a drink in high school. And so, you know, all through college, most of us have we're able to experience alcohol. We know that, you know, okay, I don't like this type. I don't like rums. One shot of vodka was just enough. 6 shots are terrible or whatever. And so we're so familiar with alcohol and what we can consume and what we can't. And in a way, sometimes I think that when I hear stories from my siblings, of all people, who are like, I had this really bad experience with cannabis, I always think back to that fact that, you know, cannabis strands, cannabinoids, what you're consuming is so it's as it can be as different as, you know, drinking a bourbon or having a glass of wine. And so I agree with you, Miss Kindness, around us having to really kind of do a similar process as we did when we were younger, just trying to try different strands, try different things, and figure out what works for us and what doesn't. And edibles are 110% so much of that for me right now. And tinctures have been really helpful in allowing me to figure out what my specific doses are of certain things. So totally agree.
Anybody else want to jump in and comment about microdosing or anything Miss Kindness or Brittany said?
I'd like to veggie back off of what they said. I um, really would like to really speak to the difference between recreational use and then therapeutic uses. Some people obviously have edibles and they're doing it recreationally, and so for
Takesha,
them,
I'm sorry, excuse me. I have to say how funny it is that you just said veggie back. I don't know if people picked up on that, but instead of piggyback, y'all, she said veggie back. Thank you for that. I am taking that forever. I love you.
I caught that.
and so, with therapeutic uses, obviously, yes, microdosing, because most of the time people are using it for a specific condition that they want to balance their endocannabinoid system with. And so they're supplementing. And then you have the recreational use of it that's now, taking over here in Connecticut, where they just legalized recreationally. And I'm finding, going to some pop-up events that no, there is no labeling, there is no dosing. You don't really, it's not regulated. And so they don't really know what effect it's going to have. So, like you said, starting low and going slow, if you're going to indulge, even recreationally, is important.
Yeah, I think you know, we use the term microdose, and really what that means is we're going to use less this time than maybe we used last time, or we're going to start with what we consider to be a small amount. And of course, packaging helps with us to know what's in it, and COAs help us to know percentages. But you know, like, I'm old school. I don't come from a time of packages, and maybe many in the room don't. Sometimes you just have to look at what you're doing and go, I'm maybe just going to take a bite. I'm not going to eat the whole cookie. Maybe I'm not going to drink the whole drink. I'm just going to take a little sip, see where that takes me. Taking time with it, there's a lot of precedence out there with all the bells and whistles that we have in the regulated market, but this is a plant. And this plant matches you in a wonderful way if you let it. So when I say microdosing, what I'm talking about is what I did with my children as they were growing up. They're grown now. They had plenty of different cannabinoids in the ways of crumbling up a little weed and throwing it in the pot. My wife, to this day, she crumbles up the herb and throws it in her breakfast, what she wants, or a smoothie, and just integrates it into her life. No regulations needed. Now, I'm happy that we have a regulated market because we fought hard to have something that we can call our own in the cannabis space. But I don't think it needs to be relied upon in order to figure out how you match the herb. That's all. Thanks.
That's such a good point.
Appreciate that on all of you adding in and sharing about your microdosing thoughts and feelings. I wanted to, just since we're talking about dosing in general, share a little bit about my high times judging experience as an edibles judge 2 years ago. I picked up my edibles bag and I was supposed to try, well, first of all, they gave me a week to try, like, I want to say 12 or 14 different edibles, which I was like, whoa, okay, I gotta like crack my knuckles here and at least do one a night. And what I found what was really interesting, which I kind of knew, but I didn't realize until I had all of these different kinds of edibles next to each other, which is, all the packaging was all different. This is all in Oregon. They weren't from different states or anything because you can't legally do that. But all of the packaging was different, all of the dosing was different, and the sizes of everything. And so, for example, a gummy is so much easier to dose because you pick it up and you put it in your hand versus a cookie where you have to divide it into 10. Now, who divides cookies into 10? And how are you going to do that if it breaks apart unevenly? And I thought that was really interesting because it's actually dosing things like that, and the way that they put them in packages. And why isn't it's kind of fun to eat like a big cookie if you're going to eat it all, but that's totally like overdoing it. And people who are buying these products sometimes for the first time really might get turned off by really not understanding how to dose it. I also bought this is separate than the High Times judges kit, but I bought a teeny tiny um resin edible, and you're supposed to divide it into 5, like what, with like a razor blade? Like, it was very bizarre. So I'd love to get your thoughts about anybody who just wants to jump in, get your thoughts about like packaging and edibles and trying to dose. I know it's different in California than it is in DC, than it is in Washington, and etc. But I'd just like to talk about that a little bit, because I don't hear a ton of people talking about these differences and whatnot.
When I heard you talking about the razor blade, I also saw you with the tiny little microscope. Trying to cut it. No, because you're absolutely right. There are, the inconsistency in packaging when it comes to edibles is absolutely amazing. I can go to my little, glass apothecary area where I keep my stuff and look at it and just be like, oh, I have one lollipop that's like 500 milligrams. And then I've got, another toothpick that's like 25 milligrams. And
Are
then
you
I've
ever
got
gonna get that like lollipop that's 500 milligrams though? Like, is that ever gonna happen?
it's like a one-time lick thing and then you put it away, or a one-time swirl in your tea and you put it away. Like it's a how many uses can you get to the end of the 500 milligram lollipop kind of thing. No, seriously. So this is the enormity and the scope of the industry that we have right now with edibles, and it's absolutely unbelievable. I tell my private clients, listen, go to the store and go get yourself whatever you want from the dispensary. If you want dark chocolate bar, go get a dark chocolate bar. Whatever you find at the dispensary, I then want you to go to a specialty store like Whole Foods or something like that and find yourself the replica of that, but without the medication. Because you're going to take a tiny bit of the one that's dosed, and then you're going to pig out on the one that's not dosed, because that's what you're going to want to do with the one that's dosed. So it's just beautiful, the things that you can find within the industry, and as you microdose, little ways to get around those things. But it's you're absolutely right. Like, here we go, the microscopic little one that we have to cut with a razor blade, and the tiny little microscope, and then this like lollipop that's gonna last me probably 10 years at the rate.
I
You know
think
what,
that we.
Nydia? Oh,
Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Miss.
I was just going to say that. Thank you, Chef. I was just going to say that, what Nydia is really answering your question with, Lisa, is that what we need is more education, because that tool that she provided with, hey, this is the experience you're about to have. So when you taste this bite of chocolate, go ahead and have that and then enjoy that chocolate bar. I mean, that is just so brilliant if we think about that and the way the mind works and the body works and our food choices. And I also, I want us to evolve from the word micro dosing to micro serving, because what that language does to our brains is make us really think about what is the serving size that we want of this food source, regardless of what's in it, assuming we're making healthy choices. So that we've moved from, right, the entourage effect to molecular synergy for that same reason, to evolve in our understanding. And so that's all I wanted to say. That tool is so, so effective, Nydia. Thank you for that.
I just
Chef Jasmine, why don't you go ahead and then
Oh,
Takesha.
okay, perfect. So, yeah, I do think that we do run into these problems when we get like packaged edibles, right? And so I do think it really comes down to empowerment, and then knowing how to know the fundamentals of infusion. So, how does it look? Like, how many milligrams are inside your oil that you're going to then infuse into whatever recipe? So it really does come down to, I think, knowing the fundamentals, knowing the numbers, and so you can empower yourself so you don't really have to go around like having half of a cookie or a fourth of a cookie or something like that.
Jeff, can you get into the whole milligram versus milliliter? Because that confuses the heck out of clients all the time.
Yeah, definitely. So milligrams are typically found like in the whole flower type of scenario. And so milliliters are typically found in concentrates in that type of form. And so when we're breaking down and doing the numbers, I always call it like apples to apples type of conversion. So this is where the math can get a little bit tricky. But as long as you know like your units of measurement and you're calculating all the way down with the same like milligrams, or is it milliliters, then you can come out with an approximate dosage. So that's what I'm all about, like really empowering people so they can kind of go around that whole entire packaging mystery. Just to kind of go off on a tangent a little bit, I was in Boston this past like 2 days ago, and yes, we were at a beautiful cannabis wedding expo, and they were selling edibles. And what I found to be interesting, because the woman who was selling them, she clearly didn't know what was in it. The package was 500 milligrams, so she was telling clients to take 3 at a time. So people were coming over to me and were like, does that even sound right? This is my first time taking edibles. So it really does come down to like educating our people who are selling it, and then the people who are consuming, empowering themselves enough so they know what those numbers look like.
I just
Well, I agree with Tiffany that I'm sorry, can you hear me? I agree with Tiffany that, as a patient, I kind of had to find what worked for me. And going to the dispensary, for their edibles, I didn't really want to have that first experience that way. So I, started to create my own. And being that I already created food experiences, I started to pair my flour with different types of foods that I ate on a regular. And, with that, really just, with research on my own, I started to really understand, like you said, serving size, like Miss Kindness said, serving sizes and, portion control as well. And that's what I teach at Afro Canna Holistic, really self-sufficient ways, to create edibles in your own home. And so I think that when it comes to the packaging, I agree. Like a 500 milligram lollipop, that's just a lot. I actually had a piece of candy not too long ago that was like 400 milligrams, and I had to take a small piece just to see how it did, because I don't take 400 milligrams at one time.
Well, I think it's important. It keeps coming up, this packaging conversation. And I just actually had the privilege of doing an interview for CKTV with a lab here local, a young man who is very focused on accurate labeling. When we understand the depth of the industry and how there are promises made on labels that have already been printed based on prior batches, whether it be flour, concentrates, or otherwise, the goal of these brands is to have their lab results come up and be within the legal range of what their label promises. So we are up against, I will say, the integrity of others and how they do business in this industry when we solely trust the label. Because this promise of, 41, 50% THC is questionable when you really understand the plant and the extraction process. And I think we need to be mindful of that when we are relying so heavily on labels to inform us. Again, I think this conversation keeps going back to the individual knowing self and their own bodies and taking the time to recognize that. But I think it's a whole nother conversation. But there's a big business in labs and labels and making sure those labels match up.
Yeah, I mean, and also understanding yourself, just like you said, Miss Kindness. But the other side of this, which may be riddled with controversy or not, is that we are really moving into this label hawk type of society. kind of this little bit of fear, because I do notice with people who take pharmaceutical medications, sometimes they take them without hawking that label. There's a trust level because they trust the education of their doctor or physician or their clinician or whatever, and they just are like, oh well, it was prescribed. Well, what was in it? Oh, I don't know, my doctor gave it to me. And but when offered something natural or offered something herbal, there's, well, what exactly is in that? Well, where was it grown? How was it manufactured? Things that they don't even know what it means. They want to know this information. So I think that we have to understand that much of the label watching is riddled with fear and faced away from self, because there isn't that layer of trust of the education of the person who is guiding them through their purchases. So really, we need frontline staff to know how to talk to people, whether they be patient or adult use consumer. Talk to them about the product and understand and have the knowledge of what's on the package to convey to the person so that they can have more trust in what they're buying and trust in what they're seeing. They see a product, they're like, well, do I eat all of it? Do I want all of it? They don't know that until they start. And they have a fear of getting started because they're wrapped up in what they're reading on the package and what they do or do not understand. So I think that is definitely worth a little bit of a check.
I feel like we're definitely in this trust building space. We're coming out of some legacy market things, and we're coming into the regulated market and like learning as a society how to even read these labels and how to measure our things. And there's just so much to talk about here, which is why I'm so excited that we're going to be talking about it more next Wednesday at the Tokeativity social. I want to open it up. I've gotten a couple of DMs from folks who had something to say, and so I'm just gonna open it up for a few guests here who either have questions or want to comment. So I'm gonna add Miss Adelia here and Devora to the stage, and we'll start with Miss Adelia when she accepts. Here she is. Hey, Adelia.
Hi everyone. I saw the notification. I haven't honestly been on Clubhouse for a while, so I'm glad I was able to, listen in and learn some insights and stuff. But just one thought that came to mind too, and I was actually Lisa and Miss Kindness, you're familiar, and Tiffany with Simone. I actually was talking to her today, and we kind of tapped into some of this conversation. But when Miss Kindness, you were saying how important the education component is, I also want to remind everyone too, going back to the education on how important it is also for the brands, because as the industry continues to evolve and you start to get a lot of more of these MSOs and these larger corporations, for these smaller brands, trust is going to be your survival tool. And so educating around your brand and your packaging and how you present your products to the consumer is going to be so vital in that way. As all these other big companies start to come in, unfortunately, we are going to see a lot more of these smaller businesses either get bought out or go away. So I just wanted to second in on that, how important education is when it comes to these products. And that was it.
Anybody who wants to buy out my small CBD business, I'm fine with.
Just to confirm that you're selling your CBD business. Is that what you're saying?
I was just, I'm always open to what the universe would like to offer. So.
I see. Okay. Yeah, no, Adelia, that's so true. It's like brands, taking responsibility for educating folks about their products and how to use them and dosing, etc., is definitely part of this trust building conversation. That's so important for brands to know that is that's part of the package. You don't just make cookies and sell them in dispensaries. You also have to educate people about how to consume them. Brittany.
In this same thread, I feel like as we're talking about education, we also have to talk about how bud tenders are treated and thought of, because ultimately they are the first line. That's who people are talking to when they're trying to figure out everything about edibles. Here in Washington, for example, the average bud tender is making $15 an hour. So it's like, I feel like bud tenders, need to get paid more, need to get a little bit more respect within the industry so that there are benefits to staying at the dispensary that they're at, to learning more about all of these things because they can actually see their career. They can see movement in their career and they can see that they have options and opportunities. And I know that that's kind of separate from uh, edibles specifically, but I think it is an incredibly huge point when it comes to education in the recreational and in the medical space.
Great point. Important. Devorah, pass the mic to you, and if you wanted to share something or ask a question to somebody up here.
I just wanted to chime in when everyone's information was brilliant, and thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to touch base. I heard so much conversation about different types of edibles, right? From like tinctures to gummies to cookies to chocolate, and the absorption of our bodies with alcohol, sugar, and fats are so different. And so I think understanding that is a big portion. And when we're looking at it as a medicine, right, as a medicinal plant, to me, medicine doesn't come in candy. And a really easy way I have found, and when we've talked to lots of chefs in the industry, those tinctures and being able to measure, and I heard it over and over again from a few people today that tinctures are really like a good place to start from a whole herb, whole plant. And I just wanted to comment on that. Like, I couldn't agree more that incorporating it into whole food to be medicinal. And that is one thing that has been, at least here in California, that's where I am. There are some brands that are doing wonderful things with tinctures. And adding them into food is a nice way to measure. So I just wanted to comment on that. And thank you all for sharing your information tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, Devorah. And for those who don't know, Devorah is one of the co-founders of Cannabis Cooking Magazine. So if you really enjoyed something or were curious about how to stay in touch with somebody that has been here on stage, please give them a follow, look at their profiles, follow them here, and yeah, make sure to follow Tokeativity. You can click the green house at the very top and be a part of our club and be alerted to our clubhouses. We're currently doing one a month, the Wednesday before our Tokeativity social, where we highlight guests and topics on that particular month's theme. This month's theme is the culinary arts, cannabis and the culinary arts. And so why don't we leave it with we'll go around one more time, and if each of you could just share a little bit about what you're going to be doing at the Tokeativity Social next Wednesday, November 17th, that will give us a little preview, and hopefully we will see some of these folks at our upcoming social, whether you've been here or you're listening afterwards. So why don't we start with Nydia?
Hey, yeah, I'm going to be running the cannabis edibles and kids sesh. So just talking about how you deal with that. Do you even talk to your kids about edibles? Where do you keep your edibles? Do you stash them? Are they hidden away? Do you show your kids what the weed sign looks like? All those things. It's going to be open forum, so we invite people to come and participate in the conversation or sit back and just listen, whatever your comfort zone is. As Tokeativity always says, and I have always adopted this in my clubhouse rooms, not a safe space, but a brave space.
Yes, Canamom Sesh. We do have a Canamom Sesh at every Tokeativity social, and the topics are different each time. This one is kids and edibles safety.
Pardon me, thank you.
And yes, that's going to be a great one to talk about. It's very important that we talk to kiddos about this. And now that we're in all these regulated markets, kids have questions, and it's just such a different world than we were when we were all growing up. So, Tiffany. let's share a little bit about and Miss Kindness, of course, because the two of you are going to be together.
Yep, we are. Miss Kindness, if you wanted to go first, you most certainly can. If you're fine with me giving the spiel, I will.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always have these ideas around what we're going to talk about. If I can just introduce Bridges and just so Bridges is, these wonderful conversations that we have that are led by Black women. We are leading courageous conversations this season one about race, equity, and inclusion. And every time we join a Tokeativity social, Tiffany and I come together to discuss how whatever the theme is might impact communities of color. And I'm really looking forward to exploring some topics around ancient practice with food, with cannabis and food, the African diaspora, and how original people used it. I think it'll be a fun opportunity for some learning and history. And then I'm really looking forward to hearing how our families have integrated cannabis into our lives if we know those stories from our grandparents and great grandparents. Just to speak to the theme of bridges and how important it is to have that knowledge of the global majority. But Tiff, I know that you also have a vision about this room, so please.
Sure, I do. Thank you. Everything that Miss Kindness just said, these conversations are so wonderful when we have them. They're so fulfilling. We talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we kind of know what those things are, but inclusivity means sharing. It means I share my culture, you share yours. I understand more about your culture, you understand more about mine. So I'm really looking forward to bridging this conversation, pun intended, into food and how we um, consume the goodness that comes from our home and hearth. And I think that it's something where we can all be inclusive. I look forward to hearing stories from different cultures, and I look forward to sharing stories from my own. So, again, I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope that you all are able to join us.
That's going to be so good. And I really do appreciate it's multi-layered conversation. It's the Bridges conversation and then it kind of focusing on the topic of the month. And it's just so juicy. Chef Jasmine.
Yes, so I'm really excited. So next week I'm going to be talking about cannabis, culinary arts, and how it relates to gut health and eating for health and happiness. So I'm really excited to unpack more tips and tricks next week.
Yes, it's going to be a very sweet sesh. Specifically, the title of that one, Healing Crohn's Disease Through Cannabis. And that, Crohn's disease is part of the gut and part of gut health. And we all have a gut. We all want to be healthy. So learning about that is going to be really, really important. Takesha.
Yes, so I will be speaking on edible dosing 101 and teaching you how to do the math with your medicine and, conscious consumption. So I'm excited.
Yes, we talked a little bit about dosing today, and to get the full download from you is going to be so sweet. And we're so appreciative of you being here. I'm so glad that we met at the Women Empowered in Cannabis networking event. That's where Takesha and I met. And Miss Kindness, I don't know maybe if you two know each other already or not, but she's been a very big part of the of Women Empowered in Cannabis for a very long time. And so I'm glad to get to know you more. And lastly, Brittany.
Hey, you all. I'll be leading the business and toke session. So I want to be introduced to your business, promote it within the group. If we have extra time, then we can talk around, your pain points, the things that you're loving, the things that you're learning. So join me. I'm excited.
Thank you, and thanks, Brittany, for hosting the business open mic. It's been so awesome to have you as a grounding uh, energy there, and somebody that already works so much with businesses and wants to support small business and entrepreneurs and wants to get to know them. It's been so sweet to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.
um, yes. All right. Well, we would love to see you all at the Culinary Arts Tokeativity Social. It's next Wednesday, November 17th from 2 to 4 p.m. Pacific and 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Our keynote speaker is Chef Liv Vasquez. She's the founder of Libby Smalls Events and the winner of Netflix Cooked with Cannabis. We do have a couple of other things going on. We have plant-based meals and juicing for relieving anxiety and depression. We are also going to be having speed networking, which is very quick 5-minute one-on-one conversations, make a friend, make a business connection, etc. Our community open mic is going to be cannabis recipe sharing, and that should be really fun. And yeah, it's just always a ton of fun. And everyone says that they meet so many amazing friends, like lifelong friends. And sometimes businesses are created, and sometimes, you got a new toking friend who you didn't know kind of lives in the town next door. And it's been so beautiful to have these things and to be able to share this with our global community. So shout out to our corporate members, Glass Cardinal, Herbal, and Sensi Magazine. Again, thank you so much for your support and dedication to the liberation of women through cannabis. And a huge thank you to our sponsors for today's Clubhouse, Angeline's Hair Serum and Vape John. You can check them out on the Clubhouse event for today. Our full lineup of what is happening at next week's event will be up soon. And if you want to sponsor future events of Clubhouse's digital socials, etc., you can head over to tokeativity.com/events, look for the event you want to sponsor, and click on the registration for that event and select logo or link on page. We're doing a special for all the listeners today of Clubhouse. You can use coupon code Clubhouse30 to get 30% off. So we hope to see you all at the Culinary Arts Tokeativity Social. Thank you again to all of my guests for today. And let's go eat some edibles.
I already did that. I gotta go.
One lick. Nice meeting
Have a
everyone.
good night.
Have a good
Bye.
night, you
Thank you
all.
all. Have a
Good
great night,
night.
everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.
You're welcome.